Voices here, sounds very clear. Savings are grand, Bahama land. Family is there, bringing good cheer. Sun, sea, and sand, they'll understand. Big brother and San Salvador, Grand Bahama, Equatorial. Where voices hit, families trust for Christmas. Where voices hit, families trust for Christmas. Call Hillary and Monkey, call Abaco and Monkey, call Nanawa and Cobra Town and Fresh Creek. That island too. Call your grandma and your grandpa. They'd love to hear from you this year. Where voices hit, families trust for Christmas. Where voices hit, families trust for Christmas.
Sign up for Rap Voice Bahamaland for as low as $14.99 a month with unlimited local and nationwide calling. You'll be entered to win your mortgage and utilities for a full year. Rap Voice Bahamaland.
Rap voices here, sounds very clear. Say things are grand, Bahamaland.
At least 30 Haitian migrants drowned in the Exuma Keys, more than 100 rescued. We've got the latest on this story. Two siblings shot within hours of each other, one of them and another man killed. Police are now investigating a possible connection.
So we'll take that into consideration.
The Prime Minister dismissing concerns of a conflict of interest in his office. A look at the Foxtown Clinic in Abaco that residents say is in desperate need of repair. Plus, Oaksville Primary School teachers celebrate Thanksgiving with the nation's leader. Those stories and more coming up. I'm Nakia DeVoe, and this is NV12. Everyone, thanks for joining us here at Cable 12 Studios. Here are the stories coming out of the NB12 newsroom this Tuesday evening. At least 30 Haitian migrants drowned when an overloaded sloop believed to be headed for the United States capsized near Harvey Key, Exuma last night. And Royal Bahamas Defense Force officials say they believe there are more bodies to be recovered. Defense Force officers, U.S. Coast Guard officials, and Exuma residents scrambled to rescue more than 100 others who clung to the hull and mast of the vessel in a desperate attempt to stay out of the ocean. Defense Force Press Liaison Officer Lieutenant Orjan Delaveau said Defense Force officers would continue their rescue and recovery efforts for a few more hours. Meantime, U.S. Coast Guard Press Liaison Officer Lieutenant Commander Doug Janish telling NB12 that the Coast Guard search for the vessel began after 6 Haitian migrants were apprehended by local officials yesterday.
Well, yesterday the police force apprehended 6 Haitian migrants from Twin Key, and they reported that the vessel had run aground and there were many Haitians in the water and many Haitians standing on the vessel. The Defense Force called to notify us and requested assistance. We responded with our Coast Guard helicopter out of Autech in Andros.
That's when they found the 40-foot wooden vessel shown there on your screen. 13 migrants were hoisted from the water last night by the U.S. Coast Guard helicopter, but Janice said bad weather prevented further rescue efforts. Winds were reportedly up to 30 miles per hour, with waves up to 5 feet Monday night. Defense Force officers joined the rescue and recovery efforts this morning. Lieutenant Delaveau said Defense Force vessels were searching for the vessel over the weekend after local fishermen reported seeing a sloop in the area. But after no luck, the RBDF requested the Coast Guard's assistance. At last report, 110 Haitian migrants were rescued, 91 males and 19 females. Delaveau and Janish told NB12 those survivors were in pretty bad shape.
The understanding we got from the police, from interviews of the survivors thus far, is that they departed Haiti on Monday, 18 November. So they've been gone, for, 9 days. And they were in pretty bad condition, dehydrated, hungry, so obviously desperate to stay out of the water.
This incident is the latest in a series of deadly shipwrecks in Bahamian waters involving Haitian migrants. Haitian Ambassador Antonio Rodriguez called the incident tragic and says he plans to visit the survivors when they arrive. Meantime, Lieutenant Delaveau said the numbers are not final and the Defense Force continues to receive new information as the search efforts persist. NB12 will continue to follow this story and bring you the latest in a later newscast. Two siblings were gunned down just over 12 hours apart in separate incidents, one that left a young mother lying dead in a pool of blood on her front porch last night. Only hours after she was killed, her brother and 3 other men were hit during a shooting this morning. And now police report one of those men is dead as well. Our Jasmine Bonamy has the details in this report.
At the scene this morning, scores of armed officers flooded the area as police said the shooting happened just before 10 a.m. And at the scene, they also revealed they're investigating any possible links between this shooting and last night's murder. Police say 4 young men ages 18, 20, 28, and 23 were shot this morning while outside a home on Ethel Street in Montel Heights. They are all in hospital. 2 were in critical condition. Police say the shooting happened shortly before 10 after several men in a blue Honda hatchback pulled up, exited the car, and opened fire on the victims. Superintendent Stephen Dean said when officers arrived at the scene, 3 of the men were still there, and 1 had already been taken away in a private car, which was later intercepted by an ambulance. Dean said they are not ruling out the possibility this incident is related to last night's shooting on Frogman Lane.
We have open investigations, so we looked at all possibilities in investigation. We don't come to no conclusive presumption on a scene, because this could have a number of variables. So we'll take that into consideration.
At the scene, dozens of neighbors looked on in shock. One woman began sobbing and screaming and had to be escorted away. One resident who did not want to appear on camera told our news team she knew all 4 victims very well. That neighbor said she was in her yard when she heard what she thought were firecrackers.
Me and my aunt was standing in the yard, and I heard some sound going off like firecrackers. I thought it was firecrackers at first, but after they keep on going off rapidly, I tell my auntie, you know, it's gone. So when we come out to the gate, my auntie said, yeah, that's someone get shoot.
Another resident who lives just down the street from where the shooting occurred says she was one of the first people on the scene. She says she prayed with the victims before EMTs arrived.
But I was the one that went out and just gave them the miracle water, anoint them, and just wash their face, and I began to let them know that they will live. I just tell them keep calm. They were talking, just keep calm, and the policemen will soon come and the ambulance will be there. But most of all, I asked them to repent, that they would live, and God will allow them to be a testimony.
Meantime, NB12 News understands that 23-year-old Jermaine Taylor, who was shot twice in the lower back this morning, is the brother of Vanessa Taylor, the woman who was murdered last night. The 23-year-old was also acquitted on November 5th in a case where prosecutors said the deceased, Michael McIntosh, identified Taylor as the shooter in a dying declaration. According to the evidence, McIntosh was found with gunshot wounds on Taylor Street and Frogman Lane, but a 10-woman, 2-man jury unanimously returned a not guilty verdict 3 weeks ago. Taylor's sister, Vanessa, was gunned down just a short distance from where that 2011 murder occurred at her home on DeVoe Street and Frogman Lane. Police said last night that 2 gunmen opened fire on the home, killing the 28-year-old mother of 2 and wounding 3 others. At the scene last night, her uncle said he watched in horror as his daughter, Vanessa, another niece, and a male friend were shot.
When I heard that, I look outside, man, I saw a fella standing in the road. All I could do was run and hide.
What did you see?
I saw a fella standing up, just firing off. Fella in a red jacket and a red hood standing up. Couldn't see his face.
What did you do when you saw that?
I ran inside, closed the door.
Dean says police are concerned about the frequency of the shootings, especially considering the most recent incident occurred in broad daylight and kids were heading to school. Dean appealed to the public for tips.
We must fight together in this war against crime. We need the public assistance, and it's a partnership.
Anyone with information on either of the incidents is asked to contact Crime Stoppers at 328-TIPS or CDU investigators at 502-9991. Reporting for NB12, I'm Jasmine Bonamy.
Well, after Prime Minister Perry Christie was photographed in London with Chef Leslie Bethel after meeting with him over a prospective investment, the opposition has been asking questions, mainly because Leslie Bethel is the son of Christie's senior policy advisor, Sir Baltrin Bethel. Today, the Prime Minister responded. Dana Smith has that story.
Amid accusations of a conflict of interest, Christie said Leslie Bethel did not accompany him on his latest overseas trip. Rather, Christie explained, he met him there. Christie said he would never allow himself to be placed in such a position.
Was not on the trip with me. Subaltern Bethel's son introduced the government. Well, first of all, when I became Prime Minister, he came in, he brought Bimini Bay to see us as an executive of Bimini Bay. And he was doing that apparently before I became Prime Minister.
Leslie Bethel is the president of Notark Management Group, a management consulting firm. According to a press release issued back in May, Bethel was appointed Chief Operating Officer of RAV Bahamas, partners in the multi-million-dollar Resorts World Bimini development. Christie said he met with Bethel in London after he was invited to a dinner with Bethel and other investors, one of whom Bethel had previously introduced him to and had submitted a proposal to the Ministry of Tourism.
When I was invited to the dinner, they were either on their way to Paris or on their way back from Paris and invited us to dinner with business interests from Dubai and Saudi Arabia. I welcomed the opportunity. Over dinner, I told them, give me something to take home, don't just talk over there. So they absented themselves, went and did a letter and brought it back to me of intent, all right? An application for 12,000 acres of land in Andros to do a huge farming enterprise with the institute down there. And so these are things that happened.
The alleged conflict in question stems from Leslie Bethel being the son of Sir Baltran Bethel, Christie's senior policy advisor, and whether or not Sir Baltran Bethel, as senior policy advisor, has any say in projects his son might be the consultant for. In an interview with the Nassau Guardian's National Review, Shadow Minister of Foreign Affairs Hubert Chipman said Christie should explain what role Bethel played during his recent trip.
With respect to Leslie Bethel, I would never, ever participate in a conflict. This young, enterprising fellow who happens to have a father who happens to be a consultant with me, whose businesses are not directly connected to my ministry in terms of his proposals, but to tourism and agriculture, those two that I discussed in any event, and they're talking about conflict. I don't see it. And most certainly, I would not do that.
Christie said he does not want any, quote, public intervention to discourage young enterprising Bahamians. Reporting for MB12, I'm Dana Smith.
Well, Deputy F&M leader Loretta Butler Turner says the Prime Minister is setting a dangerous precedent by having the perception in the public eye and the eyes of the international investment arena that there is an inside connection between potential investors and the office of the Prime Minister. She says how this matter plays out can have serious implications for future investments in the Bahamas. Paige McCartney reports.
Butler Turner said this is just another example of the cronyism the PLP practices, and at the very least, there should be full disclosure.
There has to be discussions with the wider public as to why he's being inserted into these very private discussions.
Despite the Prime Minister's assurance that he would never place himself in such a conflict of interest, Butler Turner says that there is even the slightest connection between the Prime Minister's senior investment policy advisor and an investment consultant gives a poor perception to the Bahamian public. She said it appears that Baltran Bethel is involved in every level of discussions on related policies, and that his son has a direct access is wrong and is clearly a conflict of interest.
When you have someone as close as your son presenting, being a part of, involved fully in the movements of the Prime Minister and being privy to what is going on, I think that we as the Bahamian people have every right to question what exactly is happening and whether or not we are conflicted in that regard.
Butler Turner said it doesn't matter that a deal hasn't been agreed upon at this time. She said investors are very astute business people who can connect the dots. In fact, Butler Turner said the Prime Minister is sending the wrong message to other potential investors in the Bahamas who may now very well question their chances of government approval without a well-placed connection.
Investors who are not a part of Mr. Leslie Bethel's portfolio should be questioning whether they're going to get a fair shake when their projects are put up for consideration. And I think that when you look at that as a whole, I think that this lies right at the feet of the Prime Minister in exercising very bad judgment in this regard.
Having served in the last Ingram cabinet, Butler Turner said it is not uncommon for governments to have consultants work closely with policy and investment advisors who work as a filter for government or prospective projects. However, she said those consultants do not have familial ties to the advisors. In an article printed in Tuesday's Tribune, Leslie Bethel denied a conflict of interest and said the speculation appears to be politically motivated. For MP12, I'm Paige McCartney.